Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the place where we take stacks of sources, complex articles, and all these research notes, and we really try to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, the insights that are custom tailored for you. Today, we are taking a major deep dive into a topic that really, it determines so much. Career trajectory, travel confidence. For millions of people, we're talking about achieving real functional fluency in English. And we are focusing on the methodology shared by the experts at English Uncut. Our mission today is pretty precise. We are going to excavate the core principles, the psychological shifts, and most importantly, the simple daily steps that can actually move you from feeling stuck in that cycle of endless grammar study to feeling truly confident, automatic, in a real-world conversation. So let me just start right here, right now, by asking you directly. Do you ever find yourself just freezing when someone speaks fast? Or maybe you have all the vocabulary in your head, but it just vanishes the moment you try to speak. If you want to understand real, uncut English, the quick, the casual, the authentic speech you hear in real life, then this is your shortcut. We are diving deep into how to achieve real fluency. Not through, boring theoretical grammar, but through simple, direct daily action, focusing on physical habits, phrases, rhythm, and clear pronunciation. And as we unpack these sources, if you find yourself nodding along and realizing, wow, this advice could genuinely change my path, please do yourself a favor. Subscribe to the English Uncut channel, hit that like button, and share this resource widely. Because we know that the only thing worse than struggling to speak English is knowing you could have shared the solution with someone you care about. Joining me today is the brilliant instructor who guides the English Uncut methodology. Welcome.
Thank you. It is excellent to be here, and I want to affirm that mission immediately. This deep dive is focused entirely on making English feel natural, functional, and automatic. Not painful. We have to acknowledge that common moment of pain, the one that makes every single learner question themselves. It's that specific panic, right? When you just freeze up completely because a busy, fast-talking native speaker says something incredibly basic.
Holding a coffee shop.
Exactly. Like, what can I get you? Or maybe for here or to go. And that panic, that moment of total cognitive shutdown, it is not happening because you are inherently bad at English or because you lack some kind of talent. It's happening because your underlying practice has been, it's been messy. Messy. It's been theoretical, isolated, and passive. You have treated English as this abstract collection of rules to memorize.
Instead of a skill.
Instead of a physical skill to be performed. Our mission today, through these sources, is to change that faulty wiring. We are going to train your ear and your mouth with the real-life usage of English, focusing specifically on those essential phrases, the natural rhythm of speech, and clear, functional pronunciation. We are going to fix that messy practice, starting right now.
Okay, let's unpack that concept of messy practice right away, because I think many people listening right now feel like they are working hard. They spend time on English, but they're simply not seeing the results they expect. They're just stuck.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the actual behavioral root cause of this stagnation.
Right. The core misunderstanding is purely behavioral. People believe that progress comes from these, dramatic sudden things.
Like a lightning strike of motivation.
Exactly. A huge burst of motivation, or finding some secret curriculum, or maybe possessing some innate language talent. That is a fantasy. Real progress comes from consistent, simple, and honestly, often very boring habits that you apply daily. If you feel stuck, it is almost certainly because you are caught in this messy practice problem. It looks like you're working hard, but you're achieving no functional fluency.
So what are those common ineffective habits? How do we identify them in our own lives?
Well, the first, and I think the most corrosive, is passive background exposure.
Ah, yes, I'll just have it on while I work.
Exactly. Playing English audio in the background while your attention is intensely focused somewhere else. Maybe you're scrolling on your phone, trying to multitask with social media, or running complex calculations for work. When you do that, that is not active listening practice. That is simply noise.
And why is it just noise? Isn't some exposure better than none?
It's noise because your brain requires active processing and prediction to learn a language. Passive noise does not engage the neural pathways you need to anticipate the next word or phrase. It just washes over you. So when a real person talks to you at a normal fast speed, your brain is utterly unprepared.
And it freezes.
It freezes up like an old computer facing an impossible command.
I see this described so often, people trying to train their ear, but they're watching shows with subtitles in their own native language.
It feels productive, right?
It feels incredibly productive.
But the sources we looked at suggest this is actually counterproductive. Why is that?
It's absolutely counterproductive, and this is so crucial to understand. When you train your ear with subtitles in your native language, you are teaching your brain to rely on reading the language it already knows.
You're using the easy path.
You're using the known pathway. You are rewarding your brain for avoiding the hard work of processing the foreign sound. You're training your eyes, not your ears. And then when the subtitles vanish in a real conversation, the sound is still unfamiliar and your brain just panics.
And what about pausing? The habit of stopping every sentence to look up a word.
Oh, that's another major destructive fluency killer. The continuous habit of pausing every single sentence you hear or read, running back to your native language to translate it in your head, and then letting the meaning register. You are effectively adding a huge, entirely unnecessary step that guarantees you will always be too slow for a natural conversation.
You're building a delay into the system.
You are forcing a delay into a skill that is inherently about speed.
So if we keep doing these things, if we keep choosing the easy theoretical path, what is the cumulative real-world cost?
The cost is functional failure. Simple as that. It results in those awkward silences we all dread. It leads to missed details in professional settings because you are too slow to process a rapid-fire instruction. And crucially, it creates that profoundly frustrating moment where you know the English words perfectly, you understand the grammar theory, but when you open your mouth, they come out wrong, or they arrive seconds too late.
The conversation has already moved on.
Exactly. If your preparation is messy and passive, your real-life performance will inevitably be messy and slow.
Okay, that brings us to a crucial point then. We need to completely reframe how we view listening practice. If the goal is not perfect, 100% comprehension, what should our target be?
The primary goals have to be exposure, adaptation, and context recognition. Perfection is the enemy of progress here. I mean, think about it. Waiting for 100% understanding means you are waiting forever. Because real English is inherently messy, it's unpredictable, it's imperfect.
It's not a textbook.
Not at all. Think about how native speakers actually talk to each other. They cut words short. They blend sounds together. They change speed constantly. They swallow entire syllables. If your listening practice relies only on slow, clean, perfectly enunciated teacher English, you are training for an imaginary situation.
Right. And then you encounter the reality of, say, an Australian accent talking quickly to a Scottish accent.
And you are completely lost.
That's the analogy we talked about. It's like training for a marathon while only walking to the kitchen for a snack.
Precisely. You're moving, but you're not stretching your limits to meet the real challenge. We need to move away from the sheer quantity of practice toward absolute quality.
And this is where the 10-15-minute rule comes in.
It's so powerful.
10 to 15 minutes a day. That sounds incredibly small.
Yeah.
Almost too easy compared to the pressure learners feel to study for hours. Can that really be enough?
It is absolutely enough, but only if you commit to quality over quantity. This means 10 to 15 minutes of actual focused attention. No compromises.
Phone face down.
Phone face down. No checking text, no background scrolling, just listening with disciplined attention. Maybe you're shadowing or noting key phrases. This short period of time, committed daily, is far more effective for building speed than trying to cram 2 hours of exhausted, distracted study once a week. It's all about consistency and quality.
And what if that quality practice feels uncomfortable? If I listen to something challenging and I feel like I'm only catching 40%, is that a sign I should switch to something easier?
No, actually. We need to normalize and embrace that struggle. Struggling while listening is a very good sign.
Really?
Yes, because it means your brain is actively stretching, it's adapting to new sounds, and it's trying to predict meaning. If your listening practice feels too easy, you're bored and you are not progressing. If it feels completely impossible, you understand 0%, then you are overwhelmed and that material is too hard. You have to aim for the middle ground, that zone of productive struggle.
Like lifting weights.
Exactly. It should feel slightly uncomfortable, like a weight that challenges your muscles but doesn't cause an injury. That is the zone where genuine adaptation lives.
And a big part of this is learning to trust context.
Yes. Even if you miss 3 key words in a sentence, your brain should be trained to follow the meaning, the mood, the general situation. If you're hearing people discussing deadlines and projects, you know the overall topic is work. You don't need the definition of every single word to respond appropriately.
Right. That's where that active predictive listening comes into play.
That's it.
Okay, so now we move from passive reception to active production, speaking. And as we mentioned, The major roadblock to natural conversation speed is that constant destructive need to translate. Let's address the technical steps required to break that chain.
This is the single most critical shift you can make. The translation habit is the absolute fluency killer.
Because it adds time.
It introduces lag time. When a learner tries to speak, their brain executes this enormous, energy-draining, multi-step process. First, you hear or think the thought in your native language. Second, you run back to your native language for a full internal meeting to draft the perfect grammatical response.
A full internal meeting. I like that.
Right. Then third, you translate that perfectly drafted sentence word for word into English, panicking over tense and vocabulary. And then finally, you send the sentence to your mouth.
And by the time that perfect sentence arrives, the conversation is just sprinted away. The other person is waiting. The moment is gone.
Exactly. And this isn't a moral failing, it's a deeply entrenched bad habit. The linguistic reason the brain defaults to the native language is just efficiency. It is the known fast pathway. We have to actively build a new direct pathway from meaning directly to English sound that bypasses the native language entirely.
So thinking in English is not some elevated academic skill. It's a survival skill.
It is precisely a survival skill. It buys you precious seconds of conversational speed. And the great news is that thinking in English does not require you to hold, deep philosophical discussions with perfect grammar in your head.
That's a lot of pressure.
It's an unnecessary pressure. Thinking in English just means practicing simple, sometimes even boring everyday thoughts. We need to narrate our mundane, boring lives, but simply. This practice builds that direct, immediate connection between an idea and the English sound, effectively bypassing that native language filter.
Okay, so how do we begin this daily thought exercise? Can you give us some extremely clear examples? Let's read these slowly and clearly so they can really sink in.
Absolutely. Start the second your alarm goes off in the morning. Don't let your internal monologues start in your native language. Just narrate reality. It's morning, I'm tired, I need coffee.
Simple, direct, no complex tenses needed there.
None at all. Or you're looking out the window, observing the weather. It's hot today, I need a jacket.
Or the classic, you're stuck in traffic.
Traffic is bad today, I'll be late.
Yeah.
The daily thought exercise is just narrating your life simply. And if this habit feels profoundly awkward at first, that is normal. That is the resistance of the old habit fighting back. I mean, we have to remember, if we quit this because it feels awkward, we're behaving like a baby who quits walking after 3 attempts and decides, you know what? Walking is not for me.
Right. You're breaking a cognitive habit.
Exactly. Not learning a new abstract rule.
But I have to challenge this slightly. If I only practice simple 3-word sentences like, I need coffee, how do I ever prepare for a complex professional conversation? Where I need to discuss project dependencies or market analysis.
That's an excellent question. The simple narration is the foundation. It's the basic muscle training. Once the habit of direct thought is established, that is, the avoidance of translation, you simply start adding complexity one layer at a time. So instead of I'm tired, it becomes I'm tired because I worked late yesterday. You are still using the direct pathway, but you are slowly lengthening the circuit.
You can't jump ahead.
You cannot jump to advanced grammar until the basic, simple pathway is installed and running automatically.
Okay, so that leads directly to speaking aloud. It seems like thinking silently is only half the battle. If speaking is a physical skill, the mouth, the tongue, the jaw, they need training too.
They absolutely do. Your vocal apparatus, your tongue position, your lip shape, it all requires specific physical muscle memory to produce English sounds, rhythm, and flow. If you only practice silently in your head, I guarantee your mouth will not cooperate when the pressure of public speaking arrives.
So let's define shadowing clearly for our listeners. What is it, and what is the actionable technique?
Shadowing is when you repeat what you hear out loud, immediately. And the critical factor is immediacy. You are running parallel to the speaker.
Yeah.
There is no pausing, no translating, and no overthinking or trying to correct your pronunciation in real time. You are literally just shadowing the speaker's voice, their intonation, their speed, their tone.
You're copying the music.
You're copying the music of the language.
So what should the listener be shadowing? News reports? Audiobooks?
That's a great question on material. For maximum impact, you need material that's slightly above your comfortable listening level. That middle ground again. And ideally, it should be dialogue, not monologue, because dialogue naturally introduces rhythm changes and interruptions.
And transcripts.
Finding material with a transcript is hugely beneficial, but you should only use the transcript after the initial shadowing attempt, for checking, not for reading along.
And what about the mechanics? I find when I try it, there's a lag. I'm always a beat behind. How do I minimize that?
That lag is normal. That's the sign of the translation habit trying to sneak back in. To combat it, you must prioritize the rhythm and the intonation over the individual words. If you miss a word, just keep going. Don't stop. 5 minutes of dedicated shadowing 5 days a week is enough. The goal is just to move sounds from your ear, through your brain, and out of your mouth without that translation filter.
And you can do it anywhere.
Anywhere. Walking, cleaning, commuting, exercising. No formal setting needed.
Okay, so we've also discussed talking to yourself, this invisible practice. You say it's necessary to prevent public embarrassment.
It is essential because if you refuse to rehearse alone, you guarantee that your very first awkward, messy attempt at a sentence will happen in front of a real audience. You have to pick your problem. Do you want to sound awkward alone in your kitchen, or do you want to sound awkward in a work meeting?
Good point.
When you talk to yourself, you're building that automatic English. Let's look at those basic usage scenarios again, focusing on that immediate reality.
Okay, so for instance, if you're in the kitchen preparing a meal.
I'm cutting onions, this smells strong, I'm hungry now, this recipe's too difficult.
Or maybe you're driving, navigating a new route.
Traffic is heavy today. I need to turn right at the next street. I hope I'm not late.
These are simple, but they are powerful sentences because they connect English directly to your moment-to-moment reality. They bypass that native language safety net. They're not impressive, but they're incredibly useful for building speed. And finally, let's touch on reading aloud. Learners often skip this, right? They assumed silent reading is enough.
Silent reading is fundamentally insufficient if your goal is speaking fluency. Reading aloud connects 3 necessary elements: your eyes, your brain, and your mouth.
Visual, cognitive, physical.
Exactly. It immediately reveals where English sounds uncomfortable in your physical speech mechanics. It forces you to confront your weak points in rhythm. So take a short text, a dialogue or a news article, read it out loud slowly first, focusing on accurate sound, then read it again a little faster. Finally, read it with emotion and natural cadence. English has rhythm, stress, and music. If you only read like a machine with equal stress on every word, you will speak like a machine.
Right. You have to inject that human cadence. And that leads to a crucial realization we can't stress enough. Confidence is a result, not an entry point.
Absolutely. You do not just wake up one day and magically feel confident. You earn confidence by intentionally doing the things that make you feel awkward and physically uncomfortable repeatedly until they lose their power over you. Confidence is what's left after you survive the awkward moment and realize, you know what, I struggled, but I was still understood and I kept going. Waiting for confidence is a fundamental mistake.
Okay, so if the last section was about breaking habits, this next one is about building a whole new environmental structure, a world where English isn't a subject of study, but a tool of daily life. We have to stop keeping English locked away in that study time box.
That mental box is a cage for fluency. If English only exists for the 30 minutes a day you spend with a textbook or an app, it will never become a functional, automatic part of your identity. Language is learned through constant, casual, low-friction repetition, not through intense, isolated study sessions. The brain has to encounter the language hundreds of times in small doses.
We have so many daily opportunities that we're just wasting. So where should we start integrating English right now that requires almost no extra time?
Start with your digital environment. Specifically, your mobile phone.
Oh, that's a good one.
This device is the object you look at maybe, 70 to 100 times a day? And yet, for so many learners, their operating system is still in their native language. This is a staggering missed opportunity. Change your phone's language setting to English. Yes, it will be annoying for the first 2 or 3 days.
Yes, it will.
While you hunt for the settings menu or figure out the new location of the camera app, but after that, it becomes normal. Your brain will automatically learn high-frequency functional words, update available, battery low, storage full, tap to dismiss, sing. You absorb these words because they are tied to daily function and survival, not a vocabulary test.
It moves English from being this abstract knowledge you try to access to a necessary reality you just can't avoid.
Precisely. Next, let's integrate simple writing. Writing is so powerful because it forces you to solidify your internal thoughts, and it improves your speaking flow by engaging motor memory. However, we are not asking you to write a novel.
Right, or a complex essay, or even a long email. We are suggesting 3 simple sentences daily, and the focus should be on usage and clarity over perfect grammar.
That is exactly right. 3 sentences about your day. written maybe in a notebook or a small digital note. They should be clear and descriptive, focusing on common structures and simple verb tenses. For example, focusing on simple action. Today I worked 8 hours.
Okay, focusing on an internal state or an emotion.
I felt tired, so I took a break.
And focusing on a simple future plan.
I will watch a movie later tonight. If you can text your friends, you can dedicate 5 minutes to writing these 3 sentences. It is not about proving grammatical perfection. It is about establishing a daily ritual of English production that reinforces that internal thought process. Consistency matters more than complexity.
You consistently emphasize accepting imperfection. Why is silence or avoidance such a strong, persistent habit? And why are mistakes actually the most valuable evidence of progress?
Well, silence feels safe. It feels safe because it guarantees you will not be wrong. But silence teaches you absolutely nothing about communication in real time. Mistakes, on the other hand, are absolute proof that you are actively engaging with the language. Mistakes teach you incredibly fast because they provide immediate feedback, either from the confusion of the listener or from your own realization that a sentence just felt awkward. If you are using English daily, you must accept imperfection. You will sound awkward sometimes. You will use the wrong preposition. This is good. That necessary friction is the mechanism of learning. The only person who makes 0 mistakes is the person who never speaks.
And we need to reinforce that idea that confidence is earned after the difficult work, not granted before it. How long should someone expect to feel awkward before that confidence starts to feel real?
That is subjective, of course. But the feeling of awkwardness begins to drop dramatically after about 3 to 4 weeks of consistent daily practice. You earn confidence by intentionally doing uncomfortable, small things repeatedly until they stop having the power to make you panic. They just start feeling normal. The confidence that matters is the confidence that says, I can handle this even if I struggle with a few words.
And the mechanical problem is still that translation delay.
It always comes back to that. Translation forces the time delay, and that time delay kills conversational speed. English needs a direct connection. The sound of the word latte must go straight to the image of the milky coffee drink.
Not through an internal consultation first.
Exactly, not a detour through your native language. And that direct automatic connection is built only through the kind of consistent, integrated, high-quality practice we are discussing.
Okay, this is where the deep dive truly begins. We're going to put all this theory into context. I'll introduce a complete English scenario and we will analyze the usage of the dialogue. We're focusing only on how these words and sentences are used practically in the real world, highlighting their pronunciation and direct application. Let's begin with the infamous high-pressure coffee shop test. Scenario 1. My friend Daniel walked into a cafe, tried to order a simple croissant and a coffee. He said the word, but the cashier looked confused. And then another customer had to clarify, saying he meant a croissant.
This is a textbook example of the gap between knowing the word in a book and knowing the common local pronunciation. Daniel knew the spelling and the definition, but he did not know the specific physical sound required to be understood by that busy cashier. So the key phrase here is the full request. Let's repeat it slowly and clearly, focusing on that specific sound unit. Can I have a croissant and a coffee, please? And we are focusing on that common usage of the word croissant as croissant in many American English contexts.
That's crucial. And does that pronunciation change? If he was in London or Paris, would the French pronunciation be better?
Oh, absolutely. In a true French bakery, they would expect the traditional French sound. But in a casual, busy US or sometimes UK coffee shop, croissant is often the only sound the cashier is trained to register quickly. This teaches us that fluency means adapting your production to the expected local sound, not clinging to a textbook ideal.
Okay, scenario 2 focuses on ordering efficiently. The barista is busy, maybe stressed, speaks fast. What are the key phrases we need to absorb as single units of meaning?
The first and most common is the greeting that rushes you along. What can I get you? The usage here is key. It's a casual, fast replacement for, hello, sir, what would you like to order today? It is quick, direct, and it expects an immediate response.
Usually starting with I'll have or can I get.
Right. If you hear what can I get you as 5 separate words, you are already too slow. You must hear it as one unit. What can I get ya?
And the follow-up question that causes a mental freeze-up every single time.
For here or to go? The usage is purely functional, and it is often blended together in speech. It just asks if you want to consume the item on site for here or take it away, to go.
And the simple response is just,
For here, thank you, or to go, please. Notice how efficient that language is. It cuts straight to the necessary information.
And finally, when the transaction is complete, the price. Why is it so often missed?
They use a contraction, often said very quickly and with very low emphasis. That'll be $5.50. The usage here is a common, fast contraction for that will be. Cashiers everywhere use it to efficiently state the total price. If you are not trained to hear that'll be as a single reduced unit of sound, meaning the prices, you might entirely miss the total cost.
This is why focused listening is so vital.
It is. It trains you to hear the reduced actual sound of the phrase, not the theoretical version.
Okay, let's move to the professional world. These moments are higher risk. They involve job performance, perceived competence. Scenario 3. Emma was completely confused when her manager asked her to touch base with Mike about a project.
This is where isolated vocabulary study fails completely. You understand touch and you understand base, but together, they mean something completely unrelated to physical contact.
They're social shorthand.
Exactly. The phrase is, let's touch base later this afternoon. The usage here means to check in, to connect briefly, or to discuss something quickly. It is workplace shorthand designed for efficiency. The problem for Emma was not vocabulary, it was a lack of exposure to this phrase in a business context.
So what are some alternatives? If you hear that and you want to reply with something a bit more concrete.
That's a great point. If you hear touch base, you could reply, understood, I will follow up with Mike, or I will connect with him later. Other idioms you might hear with a similar function are let's circle back or let's sync up. They all basically mean let's talk about this again soon.
Okay, scenario 4. David was confused when a coworker invited him to lunch, saying, hey, let's grab a bite.
This is another common social phrase that has to be absorbed as one sound unit, one meaning. The phrase is let's grab a bite. And its usage means simply go and get something quick to eat. It is often recognized by a fluent brain as one single fast chunk of meaning. Let's grab a bite, not 5 separate words that require translation.
Right. If David pauses to translate grab and bite, he misses the whole social invitation.
He misses it entirely.
And scenario 5. David realized the meaning of wrap things up after hearing it used at the end of several long meetings.
The phrase is, all right, let's wrap things up. The usage means let's finish the meeting, the discussion, or the activity. It is a clear, audible, transitional phrase used when a conclusion is near. If you absorb these phrases as single functional units, that sound just means the end is near, they come out faster and with less conscious thought.
And the social signaling there. Why use an idiom instead of just saying, let's finish the meeting?
Using idioms signals ease and social comfort. Let's finish the meeting is clear, but very direct, maybe a bit blunt. Let's wrap things up. Softens the conclusion and implies a shared understanding. It's part of the rhythm of business casual speech.
Which is why exposure through active listening is the only way to master it.
The only way.
Okay, let's consider a stressful environment. International travel, formal interaction like immigration. Scenario 6. Sophia panicked at the airport when the immigration officer asked a specific question.
Yes. The phrase often sounds very imposing because of the context, the uniform. It is. Do you have anything to declare? And the usage here is very specific to airport and customs contexts. It means report something you are carrying that might be restricted. Certain foods, large amounts of cash, alcohol. Because it sounds so official and uses a formal verb like declare, learners often panic, worrying they've done something wrong, when the officer is just doing a routine check.
The sources emphasize having a low-risk clarification phrase ready for these high-pressure situations. What is the single most essential phrase that can save you from panic and guessing?
This phrase is low risk, universally polite, and incredibly high value. Sorry, could you repeat that? The usage is direct. It buys you time. It clearly acknowledges that you are engaged in paying attention, and it encourages the oscillator, in this case the officer, to slow down, rephrase, or simplify.
It's a sign of engagement, not weakness.
Exactly. Not a sign of weakness at all.
So if the officer then rephrases to, are you carrying any food, alcohol, or large amounts of money? That is instantly easier to process than declare.
It is the absolute key to high-stakes interactions. Do not freeze and nod or smile when you do not understand. That is a dangerous habit. Ask for clarification immediately, or even a slightly longer version. I am sorry, I missed the last part. Can you say that again, please?
Okay, so we've established real English is fast, blended, and messy. Let's tackle how to confront that reality and train our physical speech for that speed.
The first truth is non-negotiable. Speed is not the enemy. A lack of practice at speed is the enemy. People speak fast because they are comfortable and natural. If your English only functions when the speaker deliberately slows down for you, then your English does not yet function in the real world.
And a major factor in that perceived speed is natural contractions and reductions.
Absolutely. Native speakers do not pronounce every single word distinctly like a robot. They blend, they reduce, and they contract sounds for efficiency. If you avoid training with these reduced forms, you are avoiding reality.
Let's isolate those sound units now.
Yeah.
We need to burn these common casual forms into the auditory memory slowly and clearly so they are recognized instantly.
Okay, let's do it first. Gonna, which is used for going to, as in, I'm gonna go now.
Next, wanna.
Which is want to, as in, do you want to come?
Kinda.
Kinda, as in, it was kind of cold, let me, as in, let me know when you arrive.
Yeah.
Got to, meaning must, as in, I gotta finish this report. When you hear gonna, you must instantly connect that sound to the meaning of going to. If you try to analyze it grammatically in the moment, asking why the T sound is missing, you have already lost the conversation.
A quick note. Should learners use these in formal writing?
No, absolutely not. That's the line between speech and writing. These forms belong exclusively to casual speech. In formal writing, always use the full form. But in speaking, avoiding these natural reductions will make you sound stiff.
The second point is trusting context over clarity.
Right.
You don't need to understand every word if you can follow the general meaning.
Yes, this is crucial for real-time processing. Imagine someone giving you quick directions. Go straight 2 blocks, hang a left at the lights, it's right there on the corner. Even if you have never heard the phrase hang a left, the context directions moving traffic lights tells your brain you need to turn. The usage of hang a left at the lights just means turn left at the traffic lights.
So you can't stop listening because you missed one phrase.
You must rely on the overall context to bridge that vocabulary gap.
Okay, now for the biggest psychological hurdle. Breaking the silence habit. We understand, but we say nothing. How do we start using language socially without that panic?
We must start in what we call the small talk gym. Small talk is often dismissed as trivial, but it is the warm-up exercise of language. It builds rhythm, flow, and simple confidence without high stakes. Small talk is about ease and connection, not about impressive sentences.
Okay, scenario 7, common workplace small talk. Maria was asked by her colleague, "How was your weekend?"
The phrase is, "How was your weekend?" And its usage is a very common, non-threatening way to start a conversation. The response has to be simple, direct, and short. Avoid a long, complex, translated story, something like, "It was great, thanks, pretty relaxed, just stayed home and read a book."
And the absolutely essential technique for keeping the conversation alive.
"What about you?" or "How about yours?" The usage is just a natural, quick way to toss the conversational ball back to the original speaker. It shows engagement, and it prevents the dialogue from dying right there. It is a sign of social fluency.
We often sit silently in group conversations.
Right.
Understanding maybe 70%, but saying nothing, because we're waiting for that perfect moment or the perfect sentence.
Yes, the habit of opting out.
How do we break it?
You do not need to dominate the conversation. You only need to enter it and make your presence known. Simple sentences used instantly are enough to start.
So what are 3 low-risk entry phrases our listeners can practice right now?
Let's practice these slowly and clearly. They are conversational lubricant. First, I agree with that point.
That makes sense to me.
I'm not sure about that specific detail. These phrases just show you are present and engaged. They are signs of participation. They interrupt that silence habit.
And returning to the power of asking for clarification, it saves us from that spiral of pretending to understand.
It's a critical professional skill. Practice these phrases because they signal that you are listening carefully, even if you missed one part. Sorry, what exactly does that mean?
Could you possibly say that again more slowly?
These are not signs of weakness. They are smart, effective communication tools. Silence is the risky, passive option.
You suggest a very specific, actionable step that sounds terrifying to most learners, the voice message challenge. Why is forcing yourself to use voice so important when text is so much safer?
Because text is safe, and safe practice leads to slow, unnatural progress. Voice messages are inherently uncomfortable, and that discomfort is precisely why they work so powerfully. Sending a voice message forces you to confront the gap between what you think you sound like and what you actually sound like in terms of rhythm and pronunciation.
So what's the actionable step?
Send a 30-second voice message in English about your day, maybe using a messaging app where you can listen to it privately. Talk about what you ate, what you saw, how you feel. And if you hate the sound of your voice at first, that is excellent feedback. It means you are hearing the reality of your production, not the fantasy in your head. And that confrontation signals a major step toward physical progress.
That anxiety is real, though.
It is real and we acknowledge it, but think of it this way. The voice message challenge turns that anxiety into fuel. After just 2 weeks of this, your natural rhythm will improve. Your fear of your own voice will drop. It is not magic. It is simply repeated, focused exposure to reality.
Okay, we have covered the theory and the specific techniques. Now we have to address the biggest barrier of all: consistency and accepting personal responsibility for daily, uncomfortable action.
We must be absolutely clear on this. Motivation is fleeting. It is unreliable. Habits are reliable. English will not improve through dramatic motivational speeches or rare, intense marathon study sessions. It improves through boring, reliable, low-friction daily habits.
The idea of making the habit so small you cannot fail.
Exactly. The simple daily routine has to be low friction. It has to fit seamlessly into a real adult life. So small you cannot possibly use the excuse, "I do not have the time."
Let's reiterate that simple daily routine, broken down into those tiny steps, maybe 5 to 10 minutes total.
Okay. The simple daily routine. Number 1, morning. Spend 1 minute having simple English thoughts. I'm tired, the alarm went off. This starts the day on the direct English pathway.
2, afternoon. Say a few simple sentences out loud for 2 minutes while you're walking or driving. Narrate your actions.
3, evening. Read something aloud for 2 minutes. Focus on the rhythm and flow, not on translating every word. This builds physical memory.
And 4, writing practice. Write 3 sentences daily. Focus purely on clarity and production, not on achieving perfect grammar.
That small 4-part routine takes less dedicated time than most people spend scrolling mindlessly on their phone every morning. If you skip this, it is not a time problem, it is a priority problem.
The final psychological barrier is trusting the knowledge you already have. You said that the listener often knows far more English than they think.
But they hesitate, they overthink, they wait. That hesitation is the translation habit manifesting as a lack of trust in yourself. The listener is waiting for the perfect sentence, and while they wait for perfection, the conversation is gone. Fluency is not built by waiting for safety. It is built by deciding to speak, even when you are slightly unprepared and messy.
So progress happens in those messy moments.
Exactly. Ordering coffee when you are nervous, asking for directions when you are slightly lost, starting a simple conversation instead of retreating into silence. These are the moments that strengthen the new, direct English pathway.
And what's the real ultimate cost of avoidance? Of staying stuck in that loop of passive understanding, always rehearsing the perfect sentence in your head after the conversation has ended.
The cost is functional stagnation and increased anxiety. You recognize words, but you cannot respond quickly enough. You start avoiding phone calls. You feel anxious before meetings. You feel that painful gap where you know what you should have said, but it was too late. You stay stuck in the museum, unable to use the language in the wild.
Wow.
The end goal of this methodology is fundamental. You stop translating entirely. English shows up in your mind and comes out of your mouth without needing permission. The words arrive faster because the process is direct and automatic. You stop feeling like English is this external force watching you, judging you, or waiting for you to fail.
That is the moment of genuine fluency.
That's it.
That is a profound difference, moving from feeling judged to just feeling functional and free. We have covered so much ground today, from the devastating effects of messy practice to building that tiny, powerful daily routine. The core methodology of English Uncut is undeniably clear. Consistent, focused listening, speaking out loud, and accepting awkwardness in every real interaction. If you have stuck with us until the end of this deep dive, you are already thinking seriously about changing your behavior, and that intention is a powerful resource. So please, do not let this knowledge just sit there in theory.
And I want to leave the listener with one final provocative thought to explore as they move forward. We established that the people who break through and achieve fluency are not inherently smarter than you are. They're simply more consistent in small, boring actions. But the real lesson of confidence is this. You do not build confidence by preparing more. You build it by showing up slightly unprepared and handling the messy reality anyway. We challenge you to take one small action today in English, not tomorrow, not next week, today. That could be one simple sentence spoken out loud, one 30-second voice recording sent to yourself, or one interaction where you intentionally use one of the phrases we analyzed. Stop waiting for the perfect moment and start using the language now. Thank you for joining this deep dive.
That is fantastic, actionable advice Thank you for guiding us through these sources with such clarity. And thank you to you, our listener. This has been The Deep Dive. We will see you next time.